Good afternoon and welcome to WCEDA's 16th annual meeting. We're so glad that you could join us today. It's been a long haul through a lot of uncertain terrain, and I know we're not out of the woods yet, but it's really great to see everybody. And you know, as I look around and just talking with everybody beforehand, you know, it just makes me feel how lucky we are and to see how resilient we are, how we've come together through all this to get through some really tough times. And, you know, I talk about this to other people, but I think one of the silver linings out of all of this is really what we've seen about our county itself and really the value that has shown through. And it's really been, I think, a good part of the reason why we've had a lot more activity, you know, just with people looking to locate here, looking at expansions and things like that. So we're really, I think, optimistic, even though it's been a challenging time for a lot of us. So as you continue to eat, we'd love to have you continue to eat. What I'd like to do is we have a number of major sponsors today. And so I'd like to have a few words from our sponsors today. And today's presenting sponsor is Mercy Health. And Mercy has been, well, they were a founding member of our organization and has just been a really wonderful partner, leadership supporter, both on our board and financially all throughout the entire time. Just been a really great partner, so we're very grateful for that. And so here to say a few words about her organization is Jenny Hallett, who is Vice President for Mercy Health. So if Jenny, if you could come up.
All right, good afternoon. It is really a pleasure to be here today. It's so great to see everybody's faces live and in person, not on screens. And thank you, Derek, and thank you, WCEDA, for not only putting this event back on, but also just for all the great work and support that you do to help support all of us and all of the businesses here in the county. You know, it's been a challenging year for all of us, and I really don't want to talk about that C word. So this isn't going to be about COVID. It isn't. But what I wanted to do was to kind of provide you an update about what Mercy Health has done to kind of weather this storm and support our employees, support our communities and things, and maybe give you some ideas that if you're not already doing it within your own businesses, you might have some idea to bring it forward. You know, we recognized early on during the pandemic that we need to provide support in a different way. We didn't necessarily have all of our team members on site. We didn't necessarily have them face to face with us in the same way. We couldn't provide services to them face to face in the same way. And so we started to look at how could we reach out and provide resources to our teams virtually. So we created a special website, bewellmercy.org, and this allowed for our staff to have resources to support them, not only in their job, but in everything else. You know, we've all been stressed. It wasn't just about sick patients, but it was about childcare and becoming a teacher at home now. And am I going to be able to buy toilet paper? You know, all of those things. And so everything was so stressful. And so resources that we created during this time were available online to staff so that they could find ways to de-stress, help find them opportunities to manage their stress. And this website has lots of activity even today in support of our teams. During this time, we also continued to support the community and encouraged our teams to support our communities. We all feel really good when we get done volunteering. It's kind of that good feeling. And so that there too is an opportunity to reduce some stress level. And so we encouraged our teams to continue their volunteering out in the community. Here's a couple pictures of a team that's, we have an Adopt a Highway. So they were out cleaning, and we were really excited when the high schools were able to bring the sports back online so we could be on the sidelines and volunteer out there as well. Outdoor activities gives us a little bit more energy too. Of course, we supported the community and partnered very strongly with the county with vaccinations. Couldn't have done that without a terrific leadership team. Sean Davenport and Karen Olston, our leadership team here in the county, made it flawless, made it a very smooth process to get as many people vaccinated as possible in the early days of vaccinations when it wasn't as readily available as it is today. So in January, we vaccinated over 1,400 employees, EMS, first responders, individuals that worked in healthcare that weren't affiliated with the system. And then in March, we vaccinated over 800 members of school districts, teachers, et cetera, in the area. And just really, really worked hard to provide that ongoing support. We also have programs that we really focused on supporting each other and recognizing each other for the great work that we do just on a day-to-day basis. We have a WOW program where we encourage our employees to recognize each other when they do a good job. And we then find opportunities for public recognition and meetings and so forth for those great deeds. These are just a couple examples of some of our recent WOW awards. I want to commend Julie for going out of her way to grab one of the patients a sandwich and drink because they were hungry. I love that she went above and beyond to care for our patients. Want to commend Patty on our awesome team playing without, I was working and my coworker attempted a couple IV starts without success, stopped into another department, asked for help. And without hesitation, she came and suddenly started the IV with one try. Small things can sometimes make such a difference when you're in healthcare, and we all have to stick together. And even our physicians get in the bandwagon too. Rose is an outstanding addition to my general surgery practice. She's extremely helpful, efficient, great to work with, and a pleasure to have on our team. Thank you for all you do. We are all so busy. And especially today when maybe we've got even more hats on than we normally do, we really need to find time to thank and recognize our employees and share even just the littlest bit of thanks, and it goes a long way. Every month within the organization, we take all of these WOW awards and pick out the best of the best. And we recognize 4 to 6 employees across the organization with a shield of excellence. And this is one of our orthopedic nurses, Lisa, who was recently recognized for a Shield of Excellence Award. And then again, another opportunity to thank her. She gets a special letter of recognition. She gets a special pin that not many people have. We put it up on social media, and then we also give a little gift card gift as well. So just another way to really publicly recognize the great work that our teams do. We also share our comments from our patients. So a couple of them here from our patients. The nurses worked hard to keep me comfortable. Thank you for the good work you do. You exceeded my expectations. My sister from New Jersey said your staff was the best she's dealt with in 75 years. Nurses and doctors are great people. They are compassionate and very knowledgeable. It's grateful to be treated at Mercy Health Walworth. I talk about this all the time. You are the best. Every need and question was answered. Love Mercy Walworth. Orthopedic surgery, nursing staff are exceptional, fantastic care. And the custodian sang a song to me. His beautiful voice and call to service was unexpected and remarkable. The doctors are the heartbeat of the system, and Mercy Walworth team performed flawlessly. They modeled servant leadership, competence, and care in everything we do. We tell our teams all the time, it's not about that shiny, expensive piece of equipment. It's about how you make people feel. It's about the relationships and those touch points, and really having that confidence with establishing that confidence within each other. And that's what's most important. We, like many organizations, healthcare and elsewhere, try to find out how can we be better and what's our benchmarks. And so we do patient satisfaction surveys. Actually, in the hospital setting, we are required, it's publicly reported, with our patient satisfaction scores. And we have extremely high patient satisfaction scores. You can't see it very well. I can see now with the slides, but in the middle of those blue bars there, each bar is a different category of questions regarding how were the doctors, how were the nurses, how was my care transition, how was the explanation of medications and such. And within those bars is a little triangle and a square showing what the national benchmarks are. And you can see that Mercy Walworth Hospital on the inpatient side exceeds those benchmarks in each category. On the clinic side, we have a vendor that we use, a very robust national database, Press Ganey, that we use both on hospital and the clinic side. And so here we strive to be within that top 25% of all of the clinics across the country. And that's what that green line is where that 75th percentile is. And you can see in all categories here, we exceed our own target, our own benchmark. So the reason I share this is because it's really a direct correlation of how you support and recognize your team to how well then they can support and provide care to others. Just like in an airplane. In an airplane, we all know that in an emergency, they tell you, thankfully it's never happened to me, but if that airbag drops, you have to put it on yourself before you can help somebody else that needs assistance. And that's really what it's all about, is supporting our team so that they can, and recognizing your team so that they can then do a good job and service their patients. Lastly, I found this quote: once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure, in fact, whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person you walked in. And what a storm it's been. It's affected all of us. It's affected every single one of our businesses in different ways. And I don't know if it's over. I don't know when it's going to be over. We don't know. But truly, we're all in it together, and we're all changed in some way. So again, thank you for giving me the privilege to be here today. And thank you to WCEDA for all that you do.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. Really appreciate hearing an update and just all the good work that you're doing to help keep everyone safe and healthy. Our next major sponsor for today is CUNIS. It's our Inspire sponsor. And this is a company that has just quietly grown, I guess, in a dramatic way, at least the 7 years that I've been around. It's really been amazing to see their development, but very supportive of the community in so many different ways. And so we're really grateful for their annual support, but also for their support today.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Myers, Director of Marketing with the CUNIS Auto and RV Group. And when I was asked to put together a video, I started storyboarding this crazy video of vignettes that make you say, wow, CUNIS is really something. But then I really thought about Walworth County and what it means to us, and it's our home. It's our home base. 25 years ago this winter, Greg CUNIS bought the Ford store in Delavan, and we're so happy he did. Since then, we do have 36 stores. By December 1st, we'll have 37, and by January 1st, we'll have 41. But that's not what's important. We're here at the Walworth County Economic Development Alliance because we care about Walworth County. It's our home. And I thought, rather than putting together a video about who CUNIS is, I wanted to show you what we show our employees, our mission statement, because that's really the heart of the matter. You're our home. You're our family. You're our good friends. And we appreciate being a part of Walworth County. So watch what Scotty has to say about the Kunis Auto Group.
Hi, I'm Scott Kunis. You can all read our mission statement, but as a member of the Kunis family, we want you to understand where it comes from. First, our motto of faith, family, and giving back. These 4 words truly encompass the heart and soul of why we at Kunis Auto and RV Group exist and why we're here. Anyone can sell and service cars, but for us, it's not that simple. Greg Kunis has always said we build people's lives, and to do that, we cling to our faith, build up and support our families, and give back to our communities in tangible ways. So, our mission statement. We start with our employees. When we take care of our team members and build them up, they take care of our clientele with professionalism and integrity. We start with you. Every time we start or acquire a new store, we gather the existing team. And though there's not a set script, Greg always says, we need you more than you need us. And he means it. You're the people who take care of our clients and who represent Kunis Auto and RV Group in your community. You're the face of our company, and we want to make sure that you feel safe, secure, and empowered to be the best that you can be, making the rest of us the best dealership around. Next is our clients. We don't just sell and service cars. We make sure people are treated well and fairly so that they can get to work, take care of their families, and lead productive lives. Our customers are important, not only because their patronage pays our bills and our wages, but more importantly, that they're members of our community, doing their part to make things better. We need to always remember that they deserve respect and love, just like we do, and that when we sell or service their vehicle, we're not simply performing a transaction with them. We're providing a service that is integral to their families, work, and daily life. Finally, we take care of our community. We want the cities and towns that we live and work in to be better because we're a part of it. Building up the communities we live in is a key to our success. Every store in the Kunis Auto and RV Group ties. That means that 10% of our profits are set aside to the Kunis Family Foundation, our philanthropic arm, and then quickly dispersed to local, national, and international charities and ministries. Our heart is to give to organizations with basically the same mission as us, building people's lives. Places like food pantries, orphanages, shelters, and the like are on tops of our list. And we also support agencies that lend to the economic growth and opportunities for our communities. Working toward a healthy and stable community is of course a good business move, but we serve because it's the right thing to do. We are a Christian organization that strives to empower our team members and keep them accountable so that they are able to deliver exceptional service in every situation that they encounter. We work so that our clientele knows that they were treated with their best interests genuinely at heart. We contribute to our communities so that they can be the best places to live, work, and play that they can be. The only thing we haven't addressed yet is being a Christian organization. That doesn't mean that if you aren't a Christian, you're not welcome. That's certainly not the case. Working for Kunis, the only overt things you'll experience are Christian music playing in all of our stores, pastors wandering the dealerships available for anyone's needs, and prayer before meetings that you're welcome to participate in or not. No matter the political climate, we will not hide this important part of who we are as a company. So, welcome to the Kunis Auto and RV Group. We're happy that you're a part of our family and hope you review our mission statement frequently and work with your coworkers, clients, and community with these ideals in mind.
All right, great. Thank you again, Kunis, for your generous support of the community and economic development. And so the next sponsor here is Form Wealth. And again, another very community-minded company, been very supportive of our efforts. Really appreciate your support and everything that you do to the community. And just again, have one last brief video here to share with you.
I want everyone to have the same experience that we try and give our clients at Form Wealth. That experience is having someone that cares more about your life than just your money. See, at Form Wealth, it's not just about making more money, it's about making a better life with the money that you have. It's having a conversation about what is this money for, than just having a conversation about the money itself. Way too many financial advisors, and quite frankly, this whole financial industry wants to put the focus on the stuff, the investments, the strategy, how you're gonna beat whatever it is you're gonna beat. When I find most people, they just wanna know they're gonna be okay tomorrow. They're gonna be able to retire. They're gonna be able to take care of their grandkids. They're gonna be able to have someone guide them and make the decision of what can I do and what shouldn't I do and when should I do it. To get the phone call to say, hey, I was thinking about giving some of this, can I do some of that? Those are the conversations we want to have with our clients. The money matters, that's the easy stuff. Helping you live a better life, that's my real job. My job is to help understand everything that you know about what you want to do with what you have. The experience at Form Wealth is the combination of wise stewardship and great relationship, doing life together. So if you don't have an advisor, or you feel your advisor does nothing but talk to you about the money instead of about your life, maybe you should come have a different conversation with an advisor at Form Wealth.
All right, great. Well, thank you again to all our sponsors, our major sponsors, but also any of the sponsors. We've got those listed in our program. They're on the tables. We couldn't do this event without you, and whatever we end up profiting from this goes right back into our workforce development efforts, which I know is high in everybody's mind. So know that you're supporting a really good cause in that regard. So now it's my time, and it's a great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, Susan Whiting. And she and I first met each other probably 15 years ago when I was working at George Williams College through the Music by the Lake program. Just a wonderfully delightful person with a lot of great experience. And I was so glad when she agreed to be able to speak to us today. And so I know we do have a bio in the program, but just wanted to note a few highlights here. And so she most recently served as vice chair of Nielsen, which is the largest global research company measuring what consumers watch and buy in over 106 countries. Susan is a recognized leader in operating information services and data companies, and just in understanding consumer behavior. She also serves on the board of a number of publicly traded companies as well as nonprofits. Best of all, she's pleasantly down to earth and a big fan of Walworth County. So please give a warm welcome to Susan Whiting.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you for having me today. Just a little bit about, I think, why I'm here today. Derek talked to you about my long career at Nielsen, which is a company I joined right out of college in a management training program as an economics major. I grew up in Lake Geneva. My mom's family has been here for 6 generations. I went to college in Ohio. I studied economics, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I thought I want to do something that uses that and travel and work with interesting people. And I swear those were my goals. But I also knew I wanted to learn more about business, and I needed to do that in a way that didn't involve immediately going to business school. So I went looking for companies that had management training programs, and I found an ad for Nielsen, this is true, and wrote them a letter, and they didn't have a management training program. And they then wrote me back and said, we're starting one. Are you interested? And I ended up being the first woman hired into their newly developed program to teach people right out of college about the business of measuring television, which was a big part of Nielsen's work. And the Nielsen company has a real connection to Wisconsin in that the founder went to University of Wisconsin, was an engineer. There's the Nielsen Tennis Center at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, lots of other buildings like that around Chicago. And it was still a family-owned company when I joined it in 14 countries. I joined in Chicago, went through a year-long period of learning everything about how we made TV ratings. And then they sent me to New York. And I said, I'll go for 2 or 3 years and I'll come back to Chicago. And 30 years later, I did come back to Chicago, but what happened in the interim was a really great experience in building a company that plays a very large role in many, many businesses who either produce television programming, content, advertising, or buy advertising for their companies in order to reach consumers. That's part of the business. The other part of the company's business, at least at that time, was measuring what consumers buy, consumer packaged goods all over the world. And when I left, we were actually doing that in 106 countries. So a very global business. So if you were any food manufacturer, there are many in Wisconsin, you're probably a Nielsen client, Coca-Cola, Unilever, you name it. And every major network, and now every streaming company and everybody else are also clients of the company. But what I learned in the interim was how we measured what people watched at that point, listen to now, watch on your phone, your computer, or whatever now, or what you bought. And we did that in a way that made all the information we gathered from people who were representative of populations in different countries. And we had to convince people to give us the information, gather it in many ways, put it together, and then make it useful. Today, you think about big data, and I think we were big data before that term was ever used. Had some of the first commercial computers that were used, because we would collect information from individuals, real people, who had to represent our population in order to have fair information. And so in that work, particularly in television, we actually measured local market television in over 200 markets every year, 4 times a year at least, in many major markets every single day, minute by minute. And we produced data overnight for TV stations, broadcast networks, cable networks, everybody else eventually, that would help them understand who their audience was. And it's one thing to collect information for people. It's another thing to have it be representative and be true. And so the whole idea of samples and working with statisticians to make sure we were representing the whole population became a very essential part of the work, which is where I learned a lot about consumer behavior and working with sociologists to convince people to participate in the work. That is not easy. It is a very special task to get cooperation from people who you're asking to keep equipment in their home so that you can tell what they're watching on TV, and then have them not talk about that to anybody else because you don't want that behavior influenced. So a couple big things that came out of that were some ideas that work today. In fact, the Nielsen company invented the term market share. And the whole idea, if you know about marketing, is what your business or product or whatever does compared to your competitors. And it was a really simple idea in that they were measuring your sales, but that didn't help you very much if you didn't know how your competitor was doing. And so you had to analyze that, look at the whole market, and look at your own position. And a lot of companies, even today, can do a really good job of understanding their own consumers. But what they can't do on their own is understand the whole market and know how it's moving. You could be growing, but your competitor could be growing twice as fast. And you need to understand that. So a lot of the value of Nielsen was understanding the market and having a representative view of what everybody was doing, not just you and your individual business. And that's why it became such a strong company across 106 countries. The family actually sold the company, and it became a publicly traded company owned by many others. It's almost 100 years old with the name Nielsen on it, and the company sold it in the 1980s. So as a brand, it's pretty strong. But that's where I learned a lot about the value of representation and why it mattered, and the science behind it, and processing large amounts of data, and all of those things which led to a really interesting job, and a couple of things that I'll tell you that I never anticipated, going to Badger High School and doing my math, like quite large confrontations with people who ran major broadcast networks when they didn't like the answers we gave them about their ratings. And there are a lot of personalities and egos, and you're measuring people's performance. So a lot of interesting development in a career to get to a point where you're running a company with tens of thousands of employees around the world, but great opportunities to travel, to learn how similar people are in different places, and yet how cultures can be so different. And a lot of that has shaped my view of the kind of work I then have taken on since then, which is when I left, having gone in as an entry-level management development associate and ending up running the media business and then becoming the vice chair of the whole company. I'd been there for 35 years. And I said, that's enough. I had 2 young kids. I wanted to come back and had moved back to Chicago, but was traveling all over the world. And this leads us back to the Lake Geneva part. My family has always been here, and I built a house here 20 years ago, knowing I would come back. And so we are here now, full time. But in that career, when I decided to retire from that job, I wanted to stay in business and I wanted to do things that were really different, and yet use a lot of that experience in understanding people. And we talk about consumers and we talk about clients and we talk about stakeholders, but in every case, it's people. And so understanding people's behavior and how when new choices are presented to them, or digital technology goes from an analog 12 channels to hundreds of channels, what changes and what doesn't change. To me, were really interesting things. You could say that's really geeky and actually was described as very nerdy in a New York Times article, but that's okay. But I've always been curious about why and what would happen. And so things like, you have hundreds and hundreds of channels available to you right now. When we went from 12 to 300 or 400, in fact, people only watched the same number, no matter how many you had available. It was not the expected answer. So those are the kinds of fun things you can find in data that everybody can relate to, but it relates to what you all do every day also. There's information you learn, there are assumptions you might make, and it takes information and data and research and representative research to know if that's actually really the answer. And that's what I think keeps that whole field very interesting. But when I left, I decided to join the board of Alliant Energy, a company you probably all know, but also Kemper Insurance and Hyde Park Angels, which is the Midwest's largest angel investment group in Chicago, and a small options exchange in Chicago called Box. Really different, having nothing to do at all with television or media, for the reason that they had nothing to do with television and the media. And I wanted to use, particularly in the Midwest, to come home and actually help find ways to make sure the economy here was strong. Because I left after graduating from college because I couldn't find the right job here. And there was not that same opportunity. I think what's so incredible is what I see now in Walworth County and in the surrounding areas and in commutable distance and those opportunities. And now living here full time, seeing Wisconsin's development through the eyes of Alliant as well. And a lot of the other work we do, it's very exciting. And I think given what's happened in the last couple years, to the last year and a half to all of us, and I was one of those moms at home trying to get 2 kids to go to school online with an elderly mother who had broken her hip and couldn't be in rehab with caregivers and working and everything else. So I understand quite well how stressful the situation has been on so many of us. But I also saw the opportunity of being here in Walworth County. And I saw what COVID has done through my board work. I sit on a university board. We had students, on a campus, in a residential campus in Ohio. Through my work, I saw many different things going on, and understanding consumers and understanding trends and research. My brain was looking for the big things that we were going to come out of this with. And so what I thought I would do for a couple minutes is save you looking for those big trends we're projecting for the next couple of years. I went to an article that a friend of mine who is a strategist, his name is Rashad Tabakawala, and he was the head of strategy for Publicis, which is the world's largest ad agency. And he has a set of sort of forces that he's determined in looking at the next 10 years and then some trends. There's a short Wall Street Journal piece and a little bit from Nielsen. And so I'm going to go through what looks like it's coming toward us and then talk a little bit about Wisconsin and Walworth County and see if we can bring it home. So with that, so in the next decade, Rashad suggests that there'll be 4 big forces and 10 predictions. And I'm not going to go into each of these in great detail, just a couple. One of them is we'll have multipolar globalization. It won't just be the US and Western Europe versus China. It will be India, Africa, the US, Western Europe, and more places to pay attention to. The next one is 3 big demographic shifts. The first one, declining population, here particularly, aging population. In the US, there are 10,000 people who turn 65 every day. And most of the money is in the 50 plus part of the population, which many of you may know in this room, but I found startling. There is a difference in the ethnic makeup and mindset of that changing population. In another year, the US will be multi-ethnic majority in everyone under 18 in 1 year. But 50 plus, 50 years old and older is mainly Caucasian, setting up certainly different perspectives and different thinking. And if you pause and think about that for a moment, it probably explains a lot of things that you're seeing and reading and thinking about and expectations. Another big force, we're in the 3rd connected age where data is connected to data and it's connected in new ways. It's faster, like 5G, and it's very powerful in the cloud. So it's a very different time for the importance of information and data. And the next big one would be, not a surprise, COVID-19 shock. You know, the fact that everyone in the world has gone through financial, health, and social crises at the same time is really, really obviously unusual, and in our lifetimes unusual, but it also has deep reverberations. I think some very positive trends will come out of this, and there are others that we don't even know what will happen yet. And so then he makes 10 predictions. I'm going to run through them pretty quickly, but spend time on several that seem to fit with all the materials I've seen on the tables. First is there'll be new models of governance and the way we think about our government and what it's been focused on as the work changes. Secondly, and this is no surprise to any of you, a workplace revolution and the great quote unquote resignation. Every single meeting I'm in, board meeting, and it is not-for-profit organizations and for-profit, large publicly traded companies and small ones, everyone is dealing with people leaving for all different kinds of reasons and record turnover. So I have to stand back sometimes. I say, well, where's everyone going if they're leaving? That's the big question. And that is the question. They're going for all different reasons in different directions. But as a result of that, managing turnover and managing your relationship with all the people who work for you, as you all know well, is very difficult. And it requires engaging people and understanding, why they're working, what they want, and everything else. There's been a particular loss of women in the workforce, and a lot of the gains that have been made have been erased. So what does returning to the office mean? I think also that's a discussion I've heard everywhere, not maybe the plant, maybe the school, it doesn't have to be the office. What does it look like? What does it mean? And everybody is trying different things. A key here is to understand what people want in addition to what you want in running the organization. And this is where research can come in. You know, in one of the better descriptions of the way I think companies are managing this is, the better companies are managing this is, you have an approach for right now. You decide based on what you need and what your employees are telling you to set up a structure, say between now and March. And you say, and then we'll reevaluate it. It's like software releases. It's not done. It's going to have to keep being revised. And that's really difficult to manage. But I think that is exactly what most people will have to do, because thinking about the old way of working where everybody's together all the time, depending on the kind of work you do, is probably not the future. People are going to work very differently for lots of reasons. If you think about this, careers can last 50 years with life expectancy and everything else, but companies usually last on average 15. So there has to be a lot of change, which has implications for education and everything else. But this topic is so important and requires a lot more thinking. And this is a place where I think WCEDA and schools and universities and others can make a big difference in helping each other learn what people want and what you need. The auto industry, big changes over the next 10 years, reinventing mobility, integrating tech, mobility, energy, and safety. It actually, if you think about where automobiles are going with all of that happening in a car, it really would be the metaverse. We know electric vehicles are down the road, so that's a big change. And the whole consumer experience of buying and servicing, an automobile will be different. Trust is more and more important. Consumers want to know they can trust the brand. Creativity and creators. There's a huge increase in the number of people registering to start new businesses. It's the largest, I think it's 450,000 a month in 2021, more than we've ever seen in history. They won't all make it, but it certainly tells us that if we have the ecosystem and the support, a lot of people are going in that direction. So that's his list. The Wall Street Journal top consumer trends, this is short, but one big one that I think everybody here should feel good about is that open air and outside space is very valuable. And that seems so obvious, but it's the top of their list. So think about the implications of that for here. Brand activism, good organizations doing good things. People expect that from companies and organizations now. I like to think that's a very old-fashioned idea that's coming back and actually is so much about being part of a community and what you do. Expressing the purpose of your work is an expectation for a younger generation that they will work somewhere where the purpose aligns with their beliefs, but it's not just them anymore, it's everybody. Something called phygital reality, which is the physical space and the digital together, merging those worlds. Think of stores and online, think of meetings and work. Expecting businesses to offer more flexibility to their customers, the hours they're open, the services they have, the way they provide, the delivery, which obviously has implications for your employees as well. And I chose one example from my old employer, Nielsen. Their top global consumer trend for 2021 is actually about well-being and the intersection of health, wellness, and well-being. So it's not just your medical health, and it's not just your mental health. It's all of the things around that, and consumers expecting offerings that will help them, not surprisingly, in this pandemic we're in, help them in all those ways. And they expect clean, simple, and sustainable goods. And last but not least is a short list from McKinsey. And you will see themes here. I did this on purpose because it's not just one list. For McKinsey, it was the consulting firm, it was home nesting. It was the disruption of consumer loyalty in shopping and how younger consumers are nowhere near as loyal as older ones are. But it's not just about shopping, it's about any service or anything they're purchasing. Leisure travel is increasing. I think you probably know that, and that's important to us here. But business travel is very slowly coming back and will never go back to the levels really of 2019. I've seen that in the airports. I don't think any organization I know expects to go back to the business travel at the levels they were doing it. I talked about the record number of startups, and we have a very vibrant environment here in Wisconsin for that, in venture and in innovation. And last but not least, companies and organizations are going to have to look at this whole pandemic and how it's changed shopping behavior if you're a consumer and buy, but also any service you're providing, because the combination of the virtual and electronic and digital commerce or telehealth or teleeducation, in addition to bricks and mortar, connecting all of that, making that work, making the supply chain and logistics and marketing connections is complicated. And most organizations, I don't care what they're doing, don't feel prepared for this. It could be a museum, it could be a school, it could be a manufacturer. There's a lot of opportunity in jobs, but there's also a lot of work to do to pull that all together. I mentioned telemedicine, it's booming. That's a good thing, I think, for us here. It's complicated from a regulatory point of view, and there are Mercy people here who know much more about this than I do. But just as a consumer, we know it. People are now willing to be on a screen and receiving care, and that changed very quickly. And there's a willingness to provide that way. And that means a lot more accessibility for people, for both mental and medical health. That's a good thing. But it also means consumers, all of us people, have to have access to technology for that to work. And that means broadband, that means computers, that means skill. That is not the case for a very large part of the population. They don't have broadband access because it doesn't go where they are. And that is a big part of what a lot of companies, not only is it in part of the recently, I think passed, but I'm not sure signed, infrastructure bill, but also companies like Alliant and others are working on that, because having broadband access in Wisconsin in all areas is a very big economic development issue, but it's also a fairness issue and an equity issue. So something to pay attention to. And so what does that all mean for us? For us here, there's some big themes there. I don't think anything should be a huge surprise, but coming from different areas, I see, and I did a fair amount of research on this for this, but you all know the strengths of being in Wisconsin as a state, the location and connection to transportation, our education system, the industries we have, the weather resilience, the economic factors and tax incentives, the entrepreneurial support. But what wasn't on the list that I saw, but I feel, going back to that open air part, is the natural resources, beauty, and water. I think this is a very big deal now, and I think we should be talking a lot more about it. Walworth County has all of those things, the location, the transportation, the close to larger areas, which has implications for who you hire. They can work in multiple places in the same family, industry, power, and a beautiful outdoors, education at all levels and all types, a very strong sense of community, interesting activities, growing healthcare support. I think really, really strong, attractive things. I don't think enough people know. And a big part of what you're doing is talking to other companies and things like that. But I don't think people, residents, part-time residents, actually know very much about the community. And so I'm going to give you 6 ideas to take away, and one of them relates to that. The first one, not surprising given what I've just been talking about, is know your customer. In light of these changing trends, the age things I talked about, where the money is, the movement, what might you do differently, and what might you need to research to understand the positioning of whatever it is you're doing. Second, how can you meet the flexibility needs of your current or your future employees? Now, how can you think about work where there are people who want to work but need flexibility, and there are people who need employees and have to think about that differently? It sounds like everybody's doing a lot of that already, but thinking very creatively about interns, students, semi-retired people, everything else, and thinking about regular part-time roles and other things are one way of looking at the workforce of the future. I'm a big believer in quick surveys. I see there's one on your table, but SurveyMonkey is a pretty easy online tool you can use, and doing quick 2 and 3 question surveys to get a pulse of the people who work for you. And if they don't have access to that, you do it on paper, and do that regularly and report back to the people you ask what you actually got as an answer, so they know you're paying attention. Pretty obvious, but doesn't always happen. But it's a very fast way of getting a sense of whether you have a problem. And I think we've learned in the pandemic, we can hire people in many places. We can hire people at different levels. And so that's something that we found to be helpful in a lot of the other situations I'm in. Talking about the advantages of Walworth County to people who live here. Because I grew up here, but I also have lived in New York for 30 years and Chicago. I've traveled all over the world. I have a lot of friends who don't live full-time in this area, but are here part-time. And you'd be amazed at how little they actually know about Walworth County and just basic things, because in fact, not because they're bad people and not because they couldn't learn, they're coming in, they're going to their house, they're leaving. And understanding the opportunities here is a big missed opportunity, because these are a lot of people who actually run companies who might move full-time if they understood the incredible education we have. And I decided to bring my children back to Badger High School, my twins, when they were in 8th grade in Chicago, and go back where I went to school. I researched it very carefully. We have an excellent, excellent competitive education system. We have a lot of advantages. I don't think we've thought about the broad grassroots approach to talking about the positives here, and I suggest we do that. For think digital and broadband and access to all, that issue about broadband, if there's anything you can do to influence it, it makes a big difference, and it will in our development. 5th, highlight the purpose of your work to everybody who works for you. It matters to your clients. It matters to your employees. It matters to the people you're going to hire in the future. It used to be considered, honestly, kind of soft, something you didn't need to do. You need to do it. It's a critical part of how people are thinking about work and what they do every day, and how they go home and talk about how they're spending their work hours. So if you're not doing it, it's a suggestion. And I'll leave it at the end with, think forward and around the corner. Read everything you can, watch what you can, listen to podcasts, use every resource, the schools, the organizations like this, whatever you can to keep focused on what's changing, because we don't know all the impacts from this pandemic and all the change right now, but we will be able to learn and be able to adapt. And I think we're in a very special part of the United States and a really special part of Wisconsin. I think the opportunities here are great. And it's a personal and professional goal for me that more people do understand that. So I want to end there, and thank you for letting me come today and share some of my experience. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Susan. That was very thought-provoking, and you just hit a lot of key points. And I'll probably be following up with you to get some, some recommendations or some different things on some of the research pieces that you referenced, or where to pull data that I can share with people. But really, really appreciate you sharing your insights with us and just your personal experience and feeling. It is something that I've felt as well. People ask me all the time, what do you do? And I'll say economic development, and what is that? And we get talking about different things. And, I think they have no idea, like you said, how many different industries we have, and then just all the valuable, like the education system and the healthcare system, and just the natural beauty and the resources and the space, and on and on and on. So, I totally agree with you that we need to do a much better job. But again, thank you very much for your time that you shared with us. So, at this point, what I'd like to do, I'm going to do a brief update, WCEDA update, just hit some things that I think you might be interested to know about in terms of what we're doing. I'm going to hit 3 areas. I'm going to spotlight one, just case study, because I think it'll give you some inner workings on some of the detailed work that we do and some of the partners that we use. Just some kind of general updates on a miscellaneous updates on some things, and then a few workforce pieces. But before I do that, I have some important thank yous that I want to do. And so, all of you here in some way or another are supportive of economic development with the businesses that you do and support, maybe with membership of our organization, sponsorship, supporting the community in so many different ways. And so just want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate that. Membership in general, we have a couple different categories, but a third of kind of our general membership is or I should say about a third of our budget is covered by membership. So we really appreciate that. And if you're not a member, hopefully you'll consider that. We also get support from the county, and I'd like to recognize we have Mark Luberta here, the county administrator. You could wave your hand if you haven't met Mark yet. Hopefully try to do so, but really appreciate his support and the county board. We couldn't do what we do without your support, and not just the financial support, but the support of our efforts in different projects that we do. So thank you for that. We have board members here, and if hopefully you'll have looked at our annual report. We do that every year around this time, but we've got everyone listed, our board members and committee members, so important to the work that we do, not only with their financial support and their time and effort, but sharing their expertise. I'm very grateful to that, to all of our board members. So thank you for that. Our volunteers today, Judy Newcomer and James Killian, thank you so much for that. Our staff, I mean, they're amazing, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but thank you. I tell people leading up to this, sometimes it's like a love-hate relationship, because it gets so crazy leading up to it. You're pulling your hair out, but once you get here and see everybody having a good time, you love it. But I couldn't have done that without the work and late hours of all my staff. So thank you. And last but not least, the Grand Geneva always does such a great job making these events successful. So thanks so much. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but I did want to express our gratitude to these groups. So what I thought I'd do is just kind of give you a snapshot of a project that worked on that over a couple of different years. And I'm so glad we have a few partners here that worked with us on that. But I thought it would just be helpful to see. It was a pretty complicated project, and it was something that we had identified, the community actually, we had identified in one of our board meetings, saying, if there's any way that we can do anything to help this community, let's try to do that. We had formed a task force with one of our board members who is being recognized today as an outgoing board member, Donna Walker from Alliant, was part of that task force. And so when this opportunity came about, we really jumped on it to see what we could do to help. And the short story is that the company had been kind of researching. It's a company, I should first, I guess, give a little quick background. Arnson Pipe, they manufacture large metal pipe work that is used for underground purposes. And I think it's pretty unique, a unique company. It has a niche market, but very strong company looking, their second generation, looking to kind of usher in the third generation. They have a facility in Rockford and one in Woodstock. They were looking to relocate their Rockford plant. Didn't want to do it in Illinois for obvious reasons. So we're looking across the border. So they had reached out, they needed rail and a lot of open properties. So they did reach out to Sharon, also had reached out to the state. So we had a couple different things going on. We had, some direct contact with the community and then the state. And fortunately, we have a great partner in the state. And we have Tina Chitwood here from WEDC. They also reached out to another partner that we work with, Milwaukee 7. We have Rebecca Grease here as well. And so we all jumped in, and just about the time, this was probably 2 years ago, probably a year into it, the company was they weren't sure what they want to do. They were holding off. COVID was raging. They just weren't really sure what they were doing. Just about that time, the administrator left there. So we jumped in and started doing weekly Zoom meetings and tried to get everybody to the table, that the village attorney and village president, consultants, WEDC, Department of Transportation. We're looking at grants. So, this person to make the decision, it's a big investment, $10 million. They really wanted to try to see, can they get every incentive? And so we went through all the different pieces. They need a rail spur, worked with the Department of Administration for a grant there. They wanted to work with the community to do tax incremental financing to help with the project and some of the water and sewer. Just on and on and on. There was a landowner involved. They didn't own all the property. So we, were working with the landowner, who thankfully was very cooperative and wanted to see this project go to come to pass. So, we thought we had everything really ironed out and ready to go. And then we found out that even though their power needs were relatively modest on a monthly basis, the way that their machinery operated with the different spikes and things like that with the power, right in kind of the last hour, we found out that there was going to need some major power improvements. So again, Donna Walker at Alliant helped us. We worked with Alliant to come out with something that would work for everybody, and happy to say that the project is they're moving dirt, and it's kind of an exciting project really to see. I think it's a really good fit for Walworth County. It's, it'll be 40 jobs, very sound company, community-minded company. I know that they'll be really good with our community. And, just modestly calculating, it's probably, a couple $1 million worth of wages that will then get spent into the local economy, at least hopefully most of it will, and certainly increase the tax base there. But then even more importantly, with some of the upgrades and some of the things that were done in the village there, hopefully be able to track some other projects. So I guess I just wanted to take some time, because I'm always surprised. I'll be talking with other companies and they know that I do economic development, but sometimes they get down a road where they forget to reach out early enough. And, sometimes they leave some incentives or some things on the table. And, technically the incentives are supposed to be there, to make the deal happen. And sometimes, the deal is going to happen anyways, but if they knew there were more incentives, they may actually do more, and so I can think of 3 instances recently where, big industrial project where they, thought they had it covered, And 2 years later, now they're building an additional 50,000 square feet or something because, they didn't go big enough. And so I guess my point is just to, think about that, think about all the different partners that we have that we work well with, can connect people with. If you're either doing some kind of expansion or you work with people that do, or just in talking generally, like Susan said, just trying to help educate your neighbors and friends and get that word out so that we can tap into resources. But I guess the last thing I would say on that is we have had, I think, more inquiries, I guess I would say more serious inquiries through this whole crisis than pre-crisis. And when I say serious, I mean, there are a lot of inquiries that come through, but that they're checking multiple counties, multiple states, and a lot of times those don't pan out. But these are ones that are either localized or small companies that that they're very serious. However, a lot of them just still kind of waiting because of all the uncertainty to see how things settle out. But I do feel confident that some of these will move forward, and I do feel very optimistic toward the future. So I wanted to share that just about the development and just different partners that we work with. And so then just this part, I wanted to get into some general updates. And one of the things I wanted to do is just make sure you're aware of our staff. As I said, I mean, they work so hard. This event, I felt terrible because I know there were some very late nights getting ready for that, but I think we have our full-time equivalency is only 3.5 technically, but we cover a lot of ground literally across the county, but then in just all the different things that we do. And so I just wanted to quickly make sure that I mentioned our staff to you, and hope that you'll be able to, if you haven't had any interactions, that you will in the future. So Joel was working for us full-time, and then he and his wife had an opportunity to move away. So he's part-time virtually, but Joel, if you haven't met him, just has a great sense of humor, a real zeal for life, for helping people. He's got a great background in training and working with job fairs and things like that. And so he's been really just great to work with. It's been difficult in some of those areas, but been very helpful for us to try new ideas. And I think going forward, we're gonna make some good headway in some of those areas. It's also bilingual, so we're just starting now to do some different offerings, working with the manufacturer right now to translate a lot of different documents. And so if there are any translation documents that you might need at your business, contact us. We'll be able to help you with that. Lisa Pavette, hopefully people have met her in the past. She had left us for a little bit, but came back. We're so happy that she's here. Just always a breath of fresh air, really positive, great works, does a lot of work with our students in the workforce and career development areas, but students, and then kind of connecting with businesses and opportunities. So if you haven't met Lisa, hopefully schedule an appointment soon. Leslie has been my rock. She does all our design work. She's amazing. But she's also does bookkeeping as well and does all this part-time. I don't know how she does it, but I admire her because she has that. She's able to work left and right brain, and just always very positive. Susan is a new addition here. We're so happy to have Susan. A number of you, I'm sure, are familiar with her. She's had a number of different roles in the area, but we're happy to have her on board. She's going to help us with some membership development. So just wanted to make sure you kind of knew who our team was, and hopefully you'll get to meet them soon if you haven't. And so just a couple other things that I want to touch on real quick. When we talk about the industries and, where do we focus our time and what industries drive Walworth County, we've kind of at the board level and then, to my level said, hey, let's try to focus a little bit more on the driver industries, because if we can help those industries, a lot of the other businesses will feed off of those. And I know I've talked to some of you about that, but thought it might be just a good time to give you a reminder. And so, I think the big one that comes to mind is hospitality. Everybody thinks of Lake Geneva and Walworth County as a big tourism area, and we are hospitality. So that's a big one. But then manufacturing is even potentially larger in terms of, the number of employees and then the wages. And so when we kind of look at our driver industries, we look at the number of jobs and, the amount of wages, and sometimes both, but those are two big drivers for us. Healthcare, another one. And we have great healthcare system and growing. And then construction is also another one with a lot of opportunities for growth. And so that's not to say that we wouldn't work with any other companies. I mean, you look at Cunis has been growing like crazy, and we've got other companies that are growing like crazy. But just in terms of some of the maybe the membership and activities or things that we're doing around workforce, we'll be focusing on those areas. Susan brought up the survey, and actually, Susan, I should have probably had you review this before we put this out, because we probably made some errors. But if you haven't filled that out, we'd love to do that. We also do have it in the Survey Monkey version, and we've been trying to get that out in our newsletter, but we would love to get feedback and start to get more and get that on a regular basis. So if you didn't fill it out, and you can just, could even just fold it up and leave it on the table, or give it to one of us on the way out and we'll grab it. So I'm going to make you aware of that. And then grants. Everybody's hearing about grants. Grants. It's my head spinning. I'm sure yours is too. And it's been hard to know which ones even make sense to pursue, especially if you have limited resources to do so. But I did want to make you aware of that. We are kind of working with some of our partners on a number of different grant opportunities. So one is through our Southeast Workforce Development Board, which is a tri-county area. It's Walworth County, Racine County, and Kenosha County. And there's, I think, 4 different areas that we're looking at: workforce, trying to think what the transportation, I think childcare and training, I believe. And so, we'll be pursuing that. And if we were able to get a grant, obviously we would, Walworth County would get access to that as well, and probably would coordinate with our county administrator, who is also working with ARPA funds and things. And Mark does sit on our board as a non-voting member, Mark Luberta, and has updated our board a couple different times on the funding and how they could allocate that. We're also looking at potentially doing helping in a few areas there with some of that funding. And then I know that WEDC has applied for a manufacturing grant as well. And so there are smaller ones, and there seems like there are notices every day. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to email me. If I don't know, I will reach out and I'll get some information. I know I've written a number of letters of endorsement for some of the letters. So if you know small businesses that need that, we can do that. Our chamber friends are here. They can do that as well. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Housing is a huge problem. And it's, I think partly because we are such a big tourism community. We've got the whole Airbnb thing, and we've got people that own second homes here, and they're, renovating them, which is great, but it makes it unaffordable for some of our local residents. And that's an issue in terms of the school districts with the declining enrollment. And even as we're working with, businesses to expand or come into the area, if they don't have housing for affordable housing for their, employees or prospective employees, it makes an issue. And so we are working right now with one community. We're going to use it as a test, see if we can come up with some incentives to get some developers to do some affordable housing. Then we're going to try to work with some of the other communities. So just want to make you aware of that. And if you want to be a part of that discussion or be a part, any way involved or have some information on that, please contact us. And then just lastly, we switched over our customer relationship management system this year. It's been a little slower than we had thought, but you get going and you get some snags and then you put that on hold. But I did want to make you aware of that. It's called Chamber Nation. And once we get going with it, I know it's going to be a lot easier for us to use, but I actually think, or we think, that'll be good for our members to cross promote, and it'll be a good thing. So just, we'll probably be sending some updates out in the newsletter, but I did want you to be aware of that. And so just the last section here in terms of my update are just some things related to workforce development that I wanted to call to your attention. And so, as I mentioned before, the focus in the driver industries, we're also wanting to do that with our efforts around, we originally called the program Inspire, and we still have that program going, but it's kind of evolved to a point where Lisa, who is overseeing that program, is really become more of like a work partnerships coordinator, where she's working with the businesses to try to work with the schools and get some activities going so that they have an understanding of local companies, local career opportunities, and start getting some experience, some work experience, hopefully help with those employability skills. But even more so, what we're going to be trying to do as we go forward is not just have any kind of activities, but really some work-related activities. And so working with our high schools to, see if we can help promote more of the, and Gateway, to promote more of the youth apprenticeship programs, internships with both Gateway and UW Whitewater, just in general, part-time work, full-time work, any kind of summer work, those kinds of things. And then also, which leads to the next piece with the superintendent roundtable, is working with the schools to see, what can we do to clear the way for more of those activities to happen at the school, and also for them to get more credit toward graduation credit, so that potentially we can get some of our kids getting out into the workforce sooner and being better prepared with the work experience. So just one more comment on the superintendent. That was an idea that came to us. I don't think Chris is here, Chris Trotter from the Elkhorn School District, but just thought, hey, you really need to get the buy-in from the top. Let's put a meeting together and start talking about what we can do. And so coincidentally, just last week, we put that together, and it really went well to the extent I had said the goal of the meeting was, let's try to at least meet once a year to talk about, what we can do to increase work experiences. And it turned out where that sounds like they want to do that monthly. So I'm excited about that. Susan mentioned one thing in her presentation about the declining enrollment and just declining population, I should say, in general. But that's one thing when people ask me what keeps you up at night is really that population. When you look at the next 20 years in terms of the working age from 17 to 54, it's really flat, the population projections. A lot of our growth is going to be in that 55 and older, and so they're going to require a lot more services and things like that. But a couple other things, I did mention the Spanish already, but the Puerto Rico. So this was somehow came up in a conversation, with one of our partners in a different county that has a manufacturing group like ours. In fact, we modeled it after the Waukesha Business Alliance, Manufacturing Alliance, and just talking about, what they've done with, I think at the time we asked about potentially migrant workers or immigrant refugee workers. And they said, well, we've done this presentation with Puerto Rico labor, and, you might want to revisit that. And so we did. And it's actually pretty interesting because, as you know, they're US citizens, so they don't need a green card to work. There is a language barrier and an expectation that they, would come for a career opportunity. And so you want to make sure you get a good fit, but it's something that we're exploring, and we hopefully, we'll be doing some testing in that with some of the companies, but just want to make you aware of that too. If there's any interest, please contact me and I'll give you more information. So that's all I had. I don't know if anybody has any questions about anything, and if not, I'd love to get to our awards section. And so we typically do 2 awards, and it wasn't a joke, but Dave had Brettel before used to mention that, I've forced myself on this group, and he would joke around, and I know we all miss his jokes, but I kept saying to him that I was going to establish an award in his name, and I don't think he thought I was serious. But in all seriousness, we did that not just as a joke, but really because of the work that he did. And I know that a lot of you in the room know him and had worked with him over many years, but he, really was an inspiration to so many different agencies in the county and within the county itself, and did such really great work through his tenure there that we thought it would be a great thing to honor him and really just shine a light on other individuals that are doing great work. And so, as you can see, and I know it was in the program, our award this year for the community betterment is going to The Time Is Now. Unfortunately, the founder of this organization, Sal DiMaselli, was unable to be with us today in person for some health reasons related to his wife. But he did provide us a short, I think, 4-minute clip that I would like to play for you right now.
Hello, my name is Sal DiMaselli. I'm the founder of Time Is Now to Help, and we have helped over 24,000 of our fellow creations. This is done with the help of a huge networking of many volunteers, many supporters. I was anonymous for 18 years, and then I was convinced to come out in the open by Richard Driehaus. He says, Sal, if you really believe in wanting to help the poverty-stricken, he says, you'll make yourself tangible so people can ask you questions and get involved. And I want to thank the Walworth County Economic Development Alliance for having me here today, even if it's in video. I apologize. My dear loved one has had 3 heart operations and is very at high risk, and I was told it could be very fatal. I want to really thank a longtime friend, Dave Brettel, and all of the Walworth County Economic Development Alliance for awarding Time Is Now to Help the Community Betterment Award. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It is nice to know through our networking that we have helped so many people. We help, like the last couple of years, we've helped, like last year, 698 people. The year before that, 700 people. We help approximately 4 families a week. We remove their pains of poverty. We help the elderly, the children, the handicapped, the forgotten veterans, and we help the working poor. We help with utilities, rent. We help with food. We provide new beds. We help supplement food. Utilities is always something that is needed for those that are just getting by. Or like the elderly, where the elderly are just making ends meet, and sometimes they do without. They come from a generation where they would rather go without than use any credit or take advantage of anybody. It's not like the inner city poverty where it's very easy to find people that need help. We have many people that are hidden behind closed doors. And it's through our networking of helping, it's the first responders, the nurses, the police, the fire department, and many of you are wonderful neighbors who notice something's gone awry. So I made a promise to God at 12 I would always help people, and that's what I do. I started up the time is now where there is not one penny of overhead. I cover all the overhead. If anybody gives $1 for donation, 100%, every penny of that dollar goes to remove the pains of poverty for our fellow creations. That's what we do. We provide used cars. We provide cars that are repaired. We have many people out there that are helping us, God-loving, great, wonderful people. And it's all of us coming together to make a difference. But it's all of you, all of us coming together. So once again, I want to thank the Walworth County Economic Development Alliance and all of you, the wonderful work that's needed. And as we all know, it's really needed for developing our communities so we can sustain economically in all the different school districts that are involved. It's so important. Education is really important, not to be poverty-stricken. So I thank all of you.
So what we will do is I'll work out a time and we have a plaque for him. And then there's also a check that is courtesy of Dave Brettel too, that we will get to him when the time is right. But certainly a deserving, probably a lot of you read his column, but he has a regular column in the Lake Geneva News, regional news. And, his stories are sometimes chilling, but always moving. And so we're happy to be able to award and give him that recognition this year. Our, oops, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Our next award. So we offered 2 awards this year, and the second award was for we called it the Walworth County Company Culture Award. And I think just listening to Susan, you talk about culture and how important that is, and people and purpose. I think that's one reason why we wanted to kind of highlight that and just recognize what they're doing. If people have much experience with Kikkoman, they're very modest, very humble company. Everyone that works for them, they don't necessarily do anything for recognition, like recognition. I think it was even hard for them today. They, debated coming, but they've just because of being in the food industry, they've still had a policy where they try to avoid larger events. So I do have a statement that I'll read, but before that, I would like to just read a couple notes that I put together in preparation for that. Hold on a second here. Next up, because I did have a conversation with a person who has been there for about 26 years at Kikkoman, and I was just asking her. I said, "Yeah, I've heard that you have high retention. People work there a long time." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm 26 years, but we're honoring somebody next week for 43 years." And said, we have a lot of instances of people working here for a long time. And so then I asked her, I said, well, what is it? Is it the pay? Is it the the benefits, what's certain programs and things like that. And she said, well, they are generous in that way, but she said, it's really more about creating a family environment. And I said, well, I know a lot of businesses try to do that. And she said, well, a lot of businesses say that and maybe they try it, but she said, she said, I've worked for a number of other, similar type businesses, not exactly the same, but larger business. She said, it just isn't the same. And so I asked her, I said, well, just tell me a little bit more. And so just a few quick things that she mentioned, I think gets her point across. And she said, I think it was the first year or two that she was there. She had started out in shipping. She was a shipping clerk manager. And she said the president, who typically is at the facility there and walks around and stuff, asked her, he said, could you come to my office? And she said, what's wrong? And so she gets in the office and she said, did I do something wrong or whatever? And he said, well, I noticed that you've had a lot of phone calls today, and I want to find out, is there something wrong? And she said, well, yeah, actually my father was admitted to the hospital. He's got a bad heart and we're not sure, how bad it is or whatever. And he's like, well, then why are you here? You need to get to your father. She said, well, I need to ship this out. And she said, I couldn't even pronounce where it was going. I didn't know the name. And he said, don't worry about it. We'll get it done. If it doesn't go today, it'll go tomorrow or the next day. And so she said that was kind of the first thing that got her attention. And then, a couple more things happened where, she would just see other employees helping one another with different things that came up, might have been a tragedy. I know in one instance, she said I can't remember which department it was, but the father got killed in a car accident. She said the whole department rallied around that person and, came to visit and brought food and, really just kept checking in to see what they were like. And she said, it's just throughout that we'll kind of monitor because they have, I think, close to 400 employees, but it's hard to keep track of everybody, but they monitor their Facebook pages and social media, and people just look out for one another. And so then she said, the other thing is they were really interested in my personal development and my career advancement. And she said, unfortunately, my family was large. We didn't have enough money for all of us to go to college. I didn't go to college, didn't really think I had much opportunity at this company, but they kept pushing me to get more training, more education, and advance in my career. And they believed in me more than I did, and really gave me the confidence to the point where she has definitely a very good management position now. So, and then lastly, she said, anytime I want or anybody wants, no matter if they're on the floor or doesn't matter what their level of employment is, we know we can go right into the president's office, sit down and talk to him and tell him anything. And, we know that that's going to be okay and that they're going to try to help us if they can. So I just wanted to share that because it's a little bit different. I know we talk about different programs and things like that people can put into play, but I think with them, it's really just something. And it, she said, yeah, maybe it's partly because of the Japanese culture that has, been transferred to this facility, but they marked their 100-year anniversary, I think, in 2017 for the company overall, and I think their 50-year mark in Walworth was or is coming up next year, but it's pretty close. So, anyways, just wanted to just mention that, and then I do have a brief statement to read. From Dan Miller, who was on our board. Maybe some of you would remember him, but he's their vice president for administration. So, so Dan says, on behalf of the employees of Kikkoman Foods, Inc., it is our honor to accept WCEDA's Walworth County Company Culture Award. Unfortunately, our management team could not be in attendance for the annual meeting and the luncheon this year. Usually they are. We always enjoy networking with Walworth County business leaders at this event. Kikkoman Foods started a bold experiment And in the early 1970s, a Japanese company building a soy sauce production facility in the heart of the upper Midwest seemed like a reckless idea to many observers, even some within their own parent company. History proved the skeptics wrong. Our facility in Walworth has become the highest producing brewed soy sauce plant in the world, and it is the flagship plant for Kikkoman's 10 production facilities around the globe. Products from their Walworth facility are shipped to all 50 states, Canada, Mexico, and more than 20 countries overseas. And so he says, how was this accomplished? And he said, from the very beginning, our culture was built on a foundation of cooperation and trust between our company leaders and our plant employees. Early on, it was clear that Kikkoman Foods, that for Kikkoman Foods to become a success, we had to rely on each other. Of course, our parent company leaders brought soy sauce production expertise from Japan. However, while technical innovation is important, it is the people that make our company successful. It took the intelligent, hardworking, and dedicated local workers to turn potential into reality. Kikkoman's values include cooperation, holding each other accountable, showing appreciation, having mutual respect for each other, celebrating achievements, rallying together to face challenges, and always being community-minded. Our leaders trust that our employees will be there when the company needs them, and our employees know that the company will be there for them and for their families, even after the workday is done. As our first generation of employees is now reaching retirement age, our new challenge is to select younger workers and integrate them into our company culture. We're excited about the opportunity to utilize their energy and creativity to take our company to new heights during the next 50 years. In closing, we again offer our best regards to the attendees of today's meetings. We wish you continued success in your own businesses and in our shared mission to promote economic growth and prosperity in Walworth County. Thank you to WCEDA staff, board, and member organizations for all that you do to make our county a great place to live, work, and Kikkoman Foods is proud to call Walworth County their home. So our last part is always kind of a little bit sad for me because we usually recognize our outgoing board members. And so this year we have two. Bill Thompson, Bill and I met, I bet at least 15 years ago, probably. And again, when I was working at George Williams College and I think through the Music by the Lake program. Bill has just been really a great mentor here, and he's so plugged into the local economy and to agriculture. Really, Bill, it's just been a pleasure to work with you here. And I think you and I talked prior to this. I can't believe how quickly the 2-3 year terms went, the 6 years, but Bill did serve in a number of roles, you can see, but on our executive committee, including our president last year, and just really gonna miss you. I hope you're gonna stay in touch, Bill. And again, thank you so much, Bill, for your service. And then I mentioned Donna Walker as well before when I was talking about our Spotlight Park project. Donna wasn't able to be here, but again, really enjoyed working with her and with Alliant. It's been a great strategic partnership, and can't say enough good things about Donna and just her enthusiasm to help our communities and fight for our communities. So really appreciate her time, and we will definitely connect with her to get that to her. So in closing, I just again want to thank everybody for all that you do to help economic development. I see so many partners in the room. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to just help make Walworth County a better place. We've got so many good things going for us that I think things are really optimistic for our future, but obviously have to continue to get through things. And I know you know, as Jenny mentioned, we don't know when this is going to end, but so again, thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate all your support. Thank you to the sponsors, and have a good week.